Ranking. I am your host, Michael.
And I'm your co-host, Rebecca.
And I'm your sound expert, Mikey.
And we have a special guest in our studio here.
We do.
I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christopher King.
And you are a contractor for NASA.
Yes, I am a contractor with the company called SAIC, contracting for NASA, working out of Langley Research Center in Hampton, Virginia.
All right. And this is going to be our Houston, we have a podcast episode. So I got my NASA guy here.
You did.
I did. Now, we also went to the SAC Museum yesterday.
Yes, we did.
We got to meet a real astronaut, too.
Yes.
We did.
So that was fun.
Clayton Anderson.
Yep, and he's local from Omaha, right?
From Ashland, yep.
From Ashland, or I guess Ashland and Omaha are like neighbors, or pretty close enough anyway, right?
Right, but I bet he'd prefer Ashland.
He would prefer Ashland?
Yeah.
Okay. Then he's from Ashland, but he's still native to Nebraska.
Correct.
All right. We'll get this eventually. So first, I'll let you go with the first topic here, because you're researching this with me.
I was kind of doing that, yeah. So the first topic we wanted to cover was flat earthers and how they think everything is a hoax.
Yeah. So from a NASA standpoint, are you guys CGIing the stars?
I can neither confirm nor deny that said stars are being CGI'd. Yeah, that's a pretty crazy claim. I assume you're talking about where they're saying the moon pictures are CGI'd, or are you talking about we're CGIing the stars as we sit here and look up at them at the night?
So, and that's what I was trying to figure out in my research. So I found out they believe that the sun and the moon are there, but they revolve around the Earth.
Right.
And NASA faked the moon landing.
Yeah.
They are CGIing all kinds of pictures. So everything that we see up in the sky is CGI by NASA. NASA has this big hoax of, like, there's a dome above the Earth, and it's like a salad bowl, I guess. Huh. And Antarctica keeps all the water in.
That's interesting.
It's kind of crazy.
I guess to them, then the recorded history doesn't go back before the mid 50s when NASA was formed, because how were we doing that before then? I mean, what about all recorded history of famous figures have looked up in the sky and noted various events that have occurred.
Right.
And that would be pretty impressive to go. I guess they're time travelers. They go back and they CGI everything to fit the timeline.
So it wasn't a moon mission, it was a mission through time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
maybe that's where the time machine's at.
Maybe that is where it's at.
Is on the moon that orbits a flat plane that we all live on.
Well, and some of the things that I saw here that they go through, the reality, and this is from a Robbie Davidson. He does apparently there's a flat Earth convention down in Dallas. He is saying that the flat Earth, sun and moon and stars are contained in a Truman Show-like dome.
Huh.
So
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so we're living in the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Now, he is also saying that the society, the Flat Earth Society, is actually a front to make them all look bad.
Well, I don't know that they necessarily needed a society to do that. I think they do fairly well on their own.
Right. I was going to say.
Yeah. They got that one covered.
And I'm sure every astronaut would love this. They say NASA is similar to Disneyland, and astronauts are the actors. Listen, Disneyland has better actors than astronauts. I'm sorry.
So that's interesting, because I saw a YouTube video in the past couple months here that was talking about a reality show that they did in Great Britain, or the UK, that did basically what they're saying. They created this reality show that said, okay, we're going to get all these contestants, and whoever makes it through the training or whatever that they came up with, that they were going to go on a mission to space. And they put them through all this rigorous training. They went to an abandoned military base in the United Kingdom. They created this set, basically, that they put these unsuspecting people, that these people supposedly did not know that they were on a reality show. They really thought they were, in a competition to go to space. And it looked fairly realistic. I imagine that it's one of those things where if you're in the situation, you kind of suspend your disbelief and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in this, I'm doing this, yeah. And when you see stuff that doesn't match up, your brain just kind of ignores it, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm excited.
Right.
That's actually a good way to look at it. Yeah.
That's interesting.
It
Did
was
they
a
ever
very
air it?
interesting show. Yeah, I believe they did.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We may have to see that.
It was
so.
pretty
I know.
fascinating. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. So now it's amazing the amount of sports people I saw that were flat earthers. Kyrie Irving is a flat earther.
Who's that?
That is a
Basketball player? I was saying?
I believe that's a basketball paper.
Mm.
Bob, he's a famous rapper, singer. He did the
Okay.
song Airplanes.
Okay.
With Eminem.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, he's a
okay.
flat earther. Tila Tequila. She's a flat earther. That's the one that scares me the most.
That doesn't surprise me.
No.
I didn't tell you this. Millie Bobby Brown.
Oh.
That's the.
I did know that.
Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who that is,
Yeah,
Rebecca?
she's from Stranger Things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a flat earther.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
Yeah.
And then Shaq. Shaq is the one that does it. He's tall enough to see the curvature of the Earth.
Right.
Let's be honest here.
I thought he was a little. I didn't know he was that off.
That just tells you, you don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
The problem is, if you buy into it, you buy into it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
That's the thing about conspiracies. Once you're bitten by that bug, it's very hard to get off that path. And once you start down it, you're in it, and you
Yeah.
double down constantly.
Yep. Well, there was that one guy that doubled down. He was a flat earther, and he built a rocket to shoot himself up to sea because he was going to go up. He was going to shoot up and take pictures, and he damn near blew himself up.
Yeah.
Ended up in critical care and didn't get any pictures because, of course.
He didn't make it.
Well, and even if he did, I'm sure at this point he's so brainwashed. That's where he is, right?
Well, and sadly, did not make it to the Darwin Awards by finishing the experiment.
Right. Which would take us into. So that means if the world is a dome, that means aliens don't exist, right?
If the world is a dome, yeah, how do they get in?
Do we have a doorbell?
I guess they have a door.
Good,
Yeah.
good question.
There was a door in the Truman Show. Yeah, nobody saw it, so yeah.
Right.
I guess.
That's true. That's
I
true.
guess.
So aliens. What is your take on aliens?
My personal belief is that I'm sure they're out there. I subscribe to that theory that we are one planet among 8 or 9, depending on who you ask, in the solar system. How many stars? How many billions of stars? How many billions more planets there are out there? And how many billions of galaxies there are?
Right.
Yeah.
We can't be the only one out here.
It'd be
I
kind
subscribe
of
to that.
conceited of humankind
It is.
to think, we're it. That's it.
Yeah, it's very arrogant to say, yeah, we're the only ones. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you're going to go through the conspiracies on there. The lizard people are here and they're running our government. Have you heard that one?
No.
Oh, there's some Photoshop. I'm
Oh,
sure
yeah.
they have to be Photoshop, but you can see and it could be camera flares in their eyes. They're
Right.
like, yeah, see their eyes? That's a lizard person.
Yeah.
I just don't see where some people come up with some of this stuff. It's really, how far-fetched can you get?
Apparently pretty far-fetched. I
Oh,
mean,
definitely.
Area 51 is still a big secret, right?
Right. Yeah. Still a lot of stuff going on there that not too many people know about.
Well,
Yeah.
that's true. And, here's the thing. We know some of the stuff that's come out of there.
Yeah.
We have a lot of the stuff that we saw at SAC Museum.
Sure. SR7.
They had to test that somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of those designs that they were testing, and if someone saw that out in your not used to seeing something like that. You're used to a traditional plane, and some of those fighter planes are not traditional.
Yeah.
I could see where like, oh well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we
Helicopters
watched
at
that.
night.
We watched that one show, the Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch,
Yep.
and how they were doing all the different testing up there and everything too.
Oh, is that
and
what
that
that's
was
about?
yeah.
I keep seeing it, and I just haven't clicked on it yet.
It's pretty good. There's a lot of anomalies in the area that they're trying to figure out. And of course, you got that guy, the crazy guy with the hair that says aliens.
Yeah.
Yep.
So now that doesn't mean that every anomaly is alien. So let's be honest. The gravitational pull on magnetic issues that happen throughout the Earth, solar flares, things like that, all can cause an anomaly on the Earth, right?
Yep.
And with you guys, with NASA launching stuff in space, they have to account for that. So when you see an anomaly, you're thinking, okay, was there a solar flare? You guys go through the same process, don't you?
To some extent, I mean, more with the solar flares and things like that, but like gravitic anomalies, that's not really something that comes into play.
Okay.
It's so minuscule that it's not really something that I think they take into account.
Okay.
Interesting.
That is kind of cool. So I'll be honest, I think aliens are out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that when they drive by Earth, they lock their doors and just keep going by. That would be my thought on it.
Skip that
that's
one.
Earth, click. We don't go there.
Yeah.
So, do I think they may have visited us in the past? There's a lot of pictures that they've drawn that really resemble an astronaut, don't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, when you go back and you look at the hieroglyphics in Egypt, from 3000 BC or whatever the year is. I mean, it goes way back, and there's some things on there that you look at it and you're like, that's kind of weird.
Right.
And like I said, that could be one of those things where you have something in your head and you see it, and your brain goes, okay, that's what that is, but it's because you choose to see what you see.
Right.
It's a little hard to sometimes decipher what they were going for, but you're right. I mean, and it's not, and maybe if it was just in one location, that would be saying something, but when you start talking about how they had it in Central America with the Aztecs, and
right.
you see things on theirs that look very similar.
Right.
And, I mean, like you could say that it's a coincidence. Like, is it a coincidence that the three major pyramids in Giza line up to the stars in the belt of Orion?
Right.
Could be a coincidence. Could be a major
coincidence. There's supposed
coincidence.
to be a bunch of those line up. Like if you go like Easter Island, if you draw lines a certain way, here's the thing. I think if you're the one drawing the lines, you could make them intersect anywhere you want to, right?
Exactly. So, could it be that? Well, yeah, sure, it could be.
Right. We just don't know.
But if, like you said, if the people who want you to believe that are showing you that that's what it is, if you don't question it, well, you're probably going to believe them.
Right. Right. Isn't that kind of crazy? So, yeah, I think they're out there. And here's the thing. What did we send up it with? We sent out like a time capsule out, right, with a golden record.
Yeah, on Voyager.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's my problem with that. They're going to get this record. If they send us, let's say in 100 million years, they send back a record and say, "Yeah, here's our society." Nobody here will know what that is.
Right.
That's true.
They're going to be horrible.
They'll be like, "What is that strange
Yeah,
object?"
what is that?
Yeah, I sure hope we send a record player with it along for the ride.
Yeah. I would think so too. I would hope so. And will it last out there? I mean,
it was made of gold, I believe. So, and unless it gets hit by interstellar dust or something like that, which I think they protected it to prevent that from happening. It would be protected. Gold doesn't erode or decay like other metals do.
Which is why it's so valuable. So now we were talking about the moon being fake, that moon landing being fake.
Right. Yeah.
Those
I
people crack me up.
Well, and there was a Gallup poll on that, right? I
Yeah.
think I did a Gallup poll on that. It was kind of shocking. And this was in 1999. 6% of Americans said they thought the lunar landing were fake, and 5% was undecided.
Wow. Okay. And that was in '99.
That was in 99. In July of 2019, it was 10%. Why did it go up?
Wow. So it went from 6 to 10%.
Yeah.
Probably. You know what? I'm actually shocked that it's not higher than that in 2019. And the reason that it goes up is because the changes in 50 years to our ability to communicate and to transfer knowledge via social media has exponentially increased in that time period. It's the reason I believe it's the reason that we have so many disagreements and problems and, and conspiracies and all that. They all grow because there's no delay in the transfer of those ideas. They are instantaneously transferred throughout the world. Isn't there a saying that says,
that. Yeah.
I can speak a lie, and by the time it comes back around the world, I would not have been able to tell the truth, or something like that, to that effect, that basically, you can spread a lie far quicker than you could ever spread the truth.
Well, yeah.
That big old game of telephone.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
it used to be you would say something even to your family, and by the time everybody thought about what you said, you're like, well, that was kind of dumb.
Right. Yeah.
We've all had that moment,
Yeah.
but when you have instant technology that you're just going to put your thought out there, and then I would say we've talked about that with if people thought about before, like Roseanne Barr, if she would have thought before she tweeted what she tweeted, she might not have tweeted that. That's the problem. I think people just want to say, well, I'm going to say something, and make themselves look stupid, I guess.
Well, I mean, and not only that, but I mean, there's so much clout chasing. There's so much notoriety and fame to being the first at something, the first to say something, or first to put an idea out. I mean, it even trickles down to if you look at a YouTube video and you see comments, so you see somebody say first just because they're trying to be the first one to comment on the video.
Right.
I mean, it's so ridiculously silly, and people make money off that. They make livelihoods off of that.
Right.
Wow.
That's the scary part.
Yeah.
They make money off of nothing, really, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how many times have we been to the moon?
Well, let's see. There would be Apollo 11, Apollo 12. Are you talking about manned? I
Yeah,
assume?
manned, yeah.
So 11, 12, 13 didn't land, 14, 15, 16, 17, so 6 times.
6 times. So we've been to the moon 6 times.
Yeah.
And now Russia is all of a sudden going back now.
They won't.
You don't think so?
No. Russia's space program is a discombobulated mess.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they... first of all, with their geopolitical situation, they really can't spare probably the money or the brain power to do it.
So it's probably a publicity stunt, just trying to...
Yeah, anything that they say as far... I mean, they do talk about teaming up with China and doing it. Now,
I heard
if
that.
they were to do that, China has a lot more ability than Russia does. So they could hitchhike with China, and it could basically say, okay, here's all of our experience and knowledge that we have on how to do this. And the Chinese are exceptionally good at being given information and being able to reverse engineer it into something that's fairly decent. I mean, they already have a space station up there. So it wouldn't take too much for the Chinese at this point to get there if they were assisted by someone who had already at least made an attempt to go.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting,
Yeah,
too.
I didn't know that either, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
Who all has, space stations up there? Is it...
Stations, just us, us in the sense of, all the countries that are under the International Space Station agreement. The Europeans, they send up astronauts from time to time, and various other countries participate. We're actually participating with Russia.
Oh, okay.
Very closely, actually, to the point that we can't really have the station without Russia. It's not possible because they built half and we built half, and to separate those at this point, it simply would not work. The reason we did that was because the space station was being developed during the Cold War.
Right.
And we were getting ready to start really going at it right at the end of the Cold War. That was back when it was called Space Station Freedom. And we were getting ready to go at it, and then the Berlin Wall fell. And suddenly a metric crap ton of scientists who knew an awful lot about nuclear technology and launch vehicles and all that were suddenly out on the market for whoever was willing to pay the most money to get that. And we did not want those people to get out there and start spreading their knowledge. So what we did was we entered an agreement with Russia that basically said, okay, you'll come in and you'll be an equal partner with us on this station, so long as you keep these guys employed, you keep them under
Your keep.
Yeah, you don't let them go everywhere, and don't let them start, giving Iran and all those other people a chance to, figure out how to build a nuclear missile.
Right.
And so that was what we did. And so by doing that, we basically locked ourselves together into ISS, which is where we're at now.
Right. So, and I think a lot of similar happened during World War II, when Nazi Germany started doing their thing, when a lot of their top scientists started to scatter. We really didn't want those to scatter to other places and take knowledge that may be damning to us or hurt us. So we took a lot of those people in.
They are the people who are responsible for getting NASA to where it was at in its early years.
Yeah.
Werner von Braun was basically the key, the linchpin to getting to the moon.
Yeah, so it's you gotta have to kind of stop looking at it as, well, it's regimes that are the problem.
Yeah.
It's the people that are in charge, not the scientists that work for them.
Yeah.
They had no choice, really.
Yep.
So I could see a lot of that.
Yep.
So are we going back to the moon?
Are we going back to the moon?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We'll be back there, I would guess. Currently, the plan, I think, is 2025. We have two companies. So we're doing it via commercial. So we're partnering with commercial companies. And we have two companies that we have partnered with to create moon landers.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is we're going to create a miniature space station in lunar orbit called Gateway, and we'll send an Orion capsule with around 4 astronauts out to that Gateway, and a lunar lander will be docked at that Gateway. So it's basically like almost a bus transport system. You get on the bus here, you go to the station, then you hop on another bus, and you go to your destination.
Oh.
So they'll go there, they'll hop in the lander, they'll fly down. They'll probably stay on the moon a whole lot longer than the last ones were, because we realized that you can't just go there for a couple hours. If you really want to do, science, if you really want to do resource mapping, if you really want to figure out how to do things, you got to be there more than, a day.
Sorry, babe. I wanted to do a little honeymoon on the moon with you. If he's saying 2 hours is out, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just a little quick drive by.
Yeah.
Sunbathe. I guess a sunrise up there would be great, wouldn't it? Get a tan like crazy.
Oh yeah, yeah. It'll bleach you right out.
So, is there any? I know we're planning on going back to Mars. Now, if we're going to go back and forth, are we going to create any kind of base or colonization of Mars or of the moon?
That's not currently in the plans, but I think the idea is there, and there's a lot of advocates for that. And it could work, but like I said, that's the type of thing that you need to get there and kind of figure out how you want to work that. Constructing things there is somewhat problematic.
Yeah, I would think.
It's not easy. You can't just go there and just, it's not like there's stuff waiting there to be mined. There's not metals. You would have to send things up like foundries and or the raw materials itself, which cost a lot to get it there.
Right. Home Depot don't deliver up there, I gather.
Yeah.
Probably not.
The way that they've set this iteration of going to the moon up, it doesn't really lend itself to, like, leave a lander there and use that as a base. They might be able to finesse their way into that at some point, but I don't see a moon base. If it was in a decade, I'd be shocked. 2 decades is probably doable.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
Now, what would be more doable? Colonization of Mars or colonization of the moon?
Well,
I know
that depends on who you ask.
Mars is a little further away, but it may have a little bit different, scenario there for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on how you go about it. If you start off with the plan to do that, which, Elon Musk and SpaceX, their goal is to colonize Mars. They don't just want to go there and do footprints and flags.
Right.
They want to go there and they want to actually build something.
Well, see, that's where I'm confused. If you're going to do that, and Mars is quite a ways away, wouldn't you want to do that a little closer to home, like the moon? Why didn't Elon say, well, we're going to colonize, so everything we're going to send to Mars, we're going to send to the moon, just to make sure it works, because if something fails, I don't want people that far away that will never make it back.
I think that is a little bit of in Elon's head, being a been there, done that situation, that he didn't, people. I mean, we've gone to the moon, so
yeah, but we're not vacationing there,
right?
Vacationing there,
yeah. But he felt like that was the low hanging fruit. I think his goal and his dream has always been to do something that other people haven't done. And it shows in the way that he runs his companies, to where he tries to do things that are outside of the box. And, colonizing Mars is pretty outside the box. Going to Mars is one thing. Going to Mars and leaving people there for potentially ever is another thing entirely.
That's way out of the box.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you got to understand that, if someone from, how long did it take to get to Mars? I guess that's the question.
Depending on the methods that you use, I mean, some people, and sometimes it takes approximately 6 months, sometimes a little sooner, depending on the orbits.
Okay.
There's a transfer window to Mars every 2 years, so the maximum is 2 years that it would take.
That's where
those should be your slowest.
That's where Mars lines up with the Earth, where it's at the closest point, right?
Exactly. So at its closest point, you could get there much quicker, and you have to plan for that. You can't. It's not like you can just go like, okay, I'm going to go whenever I go. No, the planets don't work that bad.
Right. You're hitting a moving target.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess that's the thing is when you send someone up there, if anything fails, that's goodbye.
Right.
But what happens if they get to Mars and they're like, I don't want to be here anymore? They don't have the way of getting off Mars. Mars has a gravity, has a gravity there, right?
Yeah.
The moon is a lot easier to get off of the moon because of the gravity pull on it is a lot less, right?
Right. It's also a lot closer, so you need less fuel to get back here.
Right.
It all comes down to fuel when you look at it. You have to have your equation of fuel when it comes to that. So and also it comes back to the transfer windows again. If you go there and you sit there for 3 months and then you're like, well, I don't want to be here. Well, your window has gotten a lot worse now because Earth and Mars are a lot farther apart from each other than they were when you landed.
Right.
So even though you want to leave, you really might not be able to leave until the window comes up again.
Wow,
So
that's crazy to think.
The people who do this will be people who they're gonna want to be there.
Yeah, like
and there's a
committed to the cause.
There's a very slim chance that they're gonna be like, oh, sorry, this wasn't for me, and they'll be vetted pretty well.
They'd have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, you're basically going to say, look, you're never going to see your friends and family again in person.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to the moon.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I couldn't imagine doing it.
No.
So I guess that's the private explorations that we get into as well is, I mean, they're talking about like having tours to space.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we were talking about the Virgin Galactic tours that they're doing now, too.
No, that's that other guy, Branson.
Richard Branson.
Richard
Yeah.
Branson.
Yeah.
How likely is that to really take off?
That's actually starting to pick up, shockingly enough. The thing about that is so Virgin Galactic does it, and their version is they strap a small space plane to the bottom of another plane. They fly it up to 50,000 feet. They drop it, and they light the engine, and they shoot them straight up in the air.
Oh.
And
Is that more fuel efficient?
yeah, it's for that business case, it would be. It's more fuel efficient because the craft itself that's carrying the passengers, it doesn't have to carry as much fuel, and it doesn't have to get through as much atmosphere to get to that point. We've already raised them up above that. The lower in the atmosphere you are, the more drag you have, and the more it takes to get punched through the atmosphere to get up to that point. So if you take them up above the thickest part of the atmosphere, you save fuel and you save energy. So
would that be going forward? Is that how NASA would try to do launches, or are they still going to just take the rocket straight up?
they'll still do the rockets. The thing about Virgin Galactic is it's suborbital. So it's basically, we're going to chuck you up in the air. You're going to go up as far as it's just like throwing a ball. You throw it up in the air. It kind of, if you watch it, it kind of hovers there for a second, and then it comes back down.
Right.
It's the same thing with this. We're just lighting an engine, throwing this airplane up in the air. It goes up.
So when it comes back down, how does it? Do they go just back down to the ground or back down to the plane?
Yeah.
Again?
So it's a pretty inventive system. So that it's basically built like a shuttlecock. The side wings of it tilt up, and so it turns it into, basically when you see like a shuttlecock, to where it's got these wings hanging off the side of it, and it naturally orients itself as it comes back into the atmosphere into a stable configuration. Once it gets down to where the aerodynamics come into play and the wing actually works, then the tail moves back down and it turns into a glider and it glides back down to the runway and lands.
Oh.
And they just launched last week, I believe.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Now that would be kind of fun.
That was kind of cool.
Hit the jackpot, baby.
Yep.
Let's go do
I'm
that.
trying. Well, here's the thing. I would love to do that. I want it thoroughly tested. We've all seen what happens when it's not thoroughly tested.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of, there's pressure, oxygen, all kinds of issues. That goes when you go up and when you go into the water.
Right.
So you have the same kind of anomalies. So I want to make sure that when they hit their 300th tour, I might start
Right.
looking into a ticket there,
Okay.
depending on how many of those tours actually reach the ground.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not, I like a little bit of adventure, but I'd like my adventures a little more safe than I've seen recently in news.
Well, yeah, I mean, winged vehicles have inherently proven themselves to be much more problematic than a capsule.
Right.
We lost 2 space shuttles.
Right.
One of them wasn't an issue with the wings, but the second one, Columbia, definitely was. And Virgin Galactic themselves lost their first vehicle. They were doing a test, and they lit the rocket, and it went up, and it hit the point of maximum pressure, and the wings unlocked. The ones that are supposed to go up once you get up there. Well, that's about the worst time you can have your wings to unlock and to change your aerodynamic properties, and to rip the vehicle apart.
Ooh.
Threw one of the guys clear out of the debris.
Oh, wow.
And only by sheer luck and some foresight from their engineers to have their parachutes actually automatically deployed was his life saved.
Oh, wow.
The other guy was not so fortunate. He was not thrown clear, and he rode the vehicle to the ground.
Ooh.
So that the reason the wings are the way they are is it's because of stress points on the craft itself, right?
In the case of Virgin Galactic, yeah, but it's more about how they orientate and re-enter. That's their method of ensuring stability on the vehicle when it comes back into the atmosphere.
Okay. So I would think it would be almost as similar as a helicopter, because if a helicopter loses power, the way it's designed is supposed to make it fall slower.
Yes.
So
very similar.
It's just an engineering thing that will help take a lot of the guesswork out of it.
Yep.
Oh.
So, and if you have a long wing and then one breaks off and the other one's still intact, then you have all kinds of problems, right?
Yeah.
So
It still amazes me that they can...
Oh, the technology's crazy, isn't it?
How they can make all this stuff to do that.
Now, you worked on the rover project, right?
I didn't work on the rover itself.
You didn't build it? What?
Oh, no. So I'm a senior software developer, and I'm in my position at Langley. They build a lot of experiments and a lot of payloads for various vehicles, and so one of the ones that I helped assist on, so I built and maintain a system that would keep inventory of parts that they use to build these products or build these payloads. And it's funny, before we started doing that, it was very willy-nilly as to how the various parts were stored on center. If you were ever to look at something and you said that's government waste, this would probably be the one area that you would look at it and go, yeah, that's pretty wasteful. They basically had, various parts throughout various warehouses that were, you see those big red toolboxes and things like that, where they just had, various components strewn all over the place and not really much of an inventory as to where those parts were and how they could reuse them. Because, when you go and you're building something and you need 10 transistors for the circuit board that you're building, you don't just go order 10 transistors, because you're probably something's going to get lost, something's going to get screwed up, you're going to go through testing, it's going to fail. Right. You're going to need some more, so you order 20. Well, when they go through a program and they order 20 transistors and they only use 10, where does the other 10 go? Right. That was the thing that they were really having problems with, was that these 10 transistors that they didn't use were just kind of going in the box somewhere, and they weren't getting reused, because the next guy that comes along with a payload says, hey, I need 20 transistors, and they go, all right, let's go order 20 transistors. Nobody knows that there's 10 of them sitting in, the next building over.
So some guy came by and said, that's where we put these.
Yeah. So what they did was they said, okay, build us a system that will help keep an inventory and keep track of where all these are at, so that we can just go into the system and say, hey, I need 5 transistors of this type. Do we have any of those? And we actually brought in this machine, and it's aptly named the VLM, the Very Large Machine. It was a 2-story tower that's basically like, when you go to the jewelry store and you see those rotating trays that have the rings in them and it just goes through them. Well, this is a massive 2-story version of that had all these trays that were like 20 feet long, 4 feet deep, and had parts all throughout each one of those trays. So you think, you're looking at 100 some trays with, 40 by 4 foot area in them, and all these different parts. And there has to be a system to know, okay, I need this part. Pull down that tray, go to this location, grab that part, take it out of the inventory system, and move it on. So it's an efficiency thing. It's a cost savings thing. So we can save the government money, which means we can make more payloads. And, it excuse me, it makes everything better all the way around.
Well, that's
cool. The Mars payload that we did was called MEDLI, MEDLI, which is Mars Entry, Descent, Landing Interface. Right. And it's basically, they did some experiments on the heat shield for the rover, the last rover that went up. The heat shield for the entry to Mars atmosphere, they did some pressure testing and things like that to figure out all the strains, the air pressure, and the heat on the vehicle as it's coming through Mars's atmosphere.
Is it a lot like Earth when it comes through? It gets kind of hot.
Yes, it gets very hot. There's a lot of pressure because there's still an atmosphere on Mars. It's not like our atmosphere, but there is an atmosphere there.
Okay.
It's not breathable or anything like that, but it is there.
Okay.
So it's it was a learning process that they can use going forward for future vehicles to understand how the entry and the landing occurs and what happens during that.
Right.
To plan for.
Oh wow,
That's
So
kind of cool, isn't it?
that is cool.
Yeah, it was very exciting.
I just can't believe they didn't have a system of what parts were what. I mean,
Yeah. Like you would think that they would be like on at least on a shelf somewhere, like
Yeah.
labeled.
It blew my mind when they explained it to me. And I was like, okay, we don't already have that? Okay. And so when you look at something like that and you say, okay, is NASA CGIing stars up in the sky? So yeah, they're CGIing that, but they can't figure out where to put their parts at and keep track of them all.
Yeah.
Maybe the easiest answer here is they're not.
yeah. So yeah, that does make a lot more sense. I mean, the pawn shop down the street has the same thing with it because that's where I get my little
Your
gold,
coins.
my coins from.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm like, so they just have a bigger version of that.
Much bigger.
Okay. I want to see it now. No, I can just imagine, and I'm going to gather if a part doesn't work in certain atmospheres, or well, this one's going to Mars, and we need to upgrade this to this. I would think that they'd have to say, label, don't use these on Mars because they'll blow out. I mean,
Yeah, there's various radiation ratings and things like that
Right.
they have to rate parts for. So,
Oh.
and that's part of the thing that they keep track of.
right. So if something goes up there, like, well, that didn't, we didn't anticipate, radiation from this area, so we can't use that anymore. Let's move those off to the side. We don't want someone, 10 years from now going, oh, we got some diodes here. Let's just use these, right?
Right.
Because then it's going to fail.
Yeah.
So,
And they have a shelf life too. So
oh, yeah, that's
and,
true.
And by knowing where they're at and being able to use them before their shelf life expires, that comes another cost savings for the government.
Okay. So right now we have, 2 Mars rovers up there?
Yeah.
Okay. And 1 deactivated?
Yeah. Well, there's a
Okay.
couple of them that have deactivated over time. But they get dust on their solar panels and then they can't charge their batteries up.
No one got a windshield wiper on those?
Yeah, you would think.
Why didn't we put a windshield? Wouldn't the windshield wiper shoot, just get a little dust off there and be done?
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
little squirt bottle on that, we'd be fine.
The little air can.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I was reading somewhere where they had like one was orbiting or something, and they like crossed paths with them. Was that the rover? Okay,
No.
maybe it was something else then. I
Yeah,
saw that.
Well, I guess the amount of debris up there and crossing happens all the time, but
Yep.
yeah, I would say eventually I'd like to do a tour of space. It would be nice. And if you, colonization of Mars is the way to go. Room with a view.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
That'd be kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I'd love to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we all? I have a whole group of people I would like to get on my first. If I become a millionaire, I'm gonna fix the problem. If you're a flat earther, Shaq, I'm talking to you. We're gonna get you on a little space tour. We're gonna get you out to the moon. You can go there yourself to believe it.
Yeah.
Here's the problem: they're gonna come back and say, "Oh yeah, they kidnapped me and brainwashed me and stuck thoughts in my head." That
Yep.
That's what's gonna
Oh,
happen. There's no winning with those guys, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
There's always an answer.
Yeah. Always. So,
Yep.
no, I thought that was a pretty good show. What do you
Yeah.
think?
It was pretty interesting.
You learned something?
I did.
I always learn something. I learned a lot from you from the Fact Museum, too.
Yeah, I love
I
that
was
stuff.
like, that was awesome.
Yeah, it's always been my passion. Aeronautics and space, it's always been my thing. So to be able to work at NASA is every day is a dream.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. What got you started in that?
At NASA?
No, just with that, your drive for...
Oh, I would say it's probably living here near the base, watching the planes fly over all the time. We used to, Mom and Dad used to always take us to the air show every year because back then it was every year there was an air show.
Yeah.
Right.
I always
Constantly.
remember putting together the model airplanes sometimes
Yeah.
with you.
And it was so cool back then because like it's not like it is now when you go to an air show and like everything's gated off.
Right.
It's like when we went to the museum. You could go up and touch an F-15 in 1980. I mean, that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and
Well, we weren't destructive back then.
Yeah.
We respected other people's
Right.
property because if we didn't, we got it when we got home.
right, yeah,
So I'm sure you both know, and I've got the look where if I start to act up in a store, my mom could give me that look, and that look was, okay, I'm on borrowed time if I do anything. Now there's kids run around, they do whatever they want, they touch things, they break things, they don't have any respect for other people's property.
right.
So I think that's the big difference too. I was a little disappointed it was all kind of closed off, but I understand why.
Yeah.
So, all right, and then I think our next show,
Next show is going to be like hybrid versus electric vehicles.
that's going to be a fun show
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, sounds cool.
Yeah.
Chad and Bev and all you guys are always going back and forth when we go out on that
Yeah.
subject. So it's been kind of interesting, and then just kind of seeing the effects of electric vehicles nowadays. It's like,
Yeah.
I
Crazy.
forgot to plug my phone in to charge it the other day. I can't imagine waking up and realizing I forgot to plug my car in.
right?
Right. Well, yeah, I'm telling you, NASA needs to get solar panels all on their stuff, and then they can all be totally electric, right? You don't have to worry about fuel.
There you go.
I don't think that would ever work. But
No.
Probably not. Sounds good though.
it sounds great. It sounds like a great idea, but no.
That's the next conspiracy.
Maybe that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see if that ever works. So, all right. I think that was going to be our show then, won't it?
Alrighty, bye everybody.